Imagine you've just finished one of the best meals you've had all day. Maybe it was a homemade dinner. Maybe it was a juicy burger. Or perhaps it was a healthy bowl of rice, vegetables, and grilled chicken. Naturally, you reach for a glass of water. You take a long sip. Nothing feels unusual. In fact, billions of people around the world do exactly the same thing every single day. Yet, according to one of the internet's most persistent health myths, that simple sip could be ruining your digestion. You've probably heard the warning before. Never drink water immediately after eating. Some people claim it dilutes your stomach acid. Others insist it slows digestion. Some even argue that it causes weight gain because your body supposedly can't digest food properly anymore. The explanation sounds convincing. After all, if you pour water into a strong acid, wouldn't the acid become weaker? At first glance, it seems like simple logic, and that's exactly why so many people believe it. But here's the problem. The human stomach isn't a glass sitting on your kitchen table. It's something far more sophisticated. So before deciding whether this popular advice is true, we first need to answer a much more fundamental question. What actually happens inside your stomach the moment you drink water after a meal? Because if we misunderstand that one process, everything else begins to fall apart. Surprisingly, this isn't a new belief. People have been warning against drinking water with meals for generations. Long before YouTube, long before TikTok, long before health influencers filled social media with nutrition advice. Variations of this idea already existed in different cultures around the world. Some traditions believed water cooled the digestive fire. Others believed it weakened digestive juices. Over time, those ideas evolved. Today, the explanation sounds more scientific. Instead of talking about digestive fire, people talk about stomach acid. Instead of ancient traditions, we now see animated videos, viral posts, and confident headlines. But despite the modern language, the central claim hasn't changed. Water supposedly interferes with digestion. The question is, has the science changed too? Or have we simply found new ways to tell the same old story? Because here's something interesting. If drinking water after meals truly damage digestion, we should expect doctors to warn healthy patients about it. Hospitals should discourage it. Nutrition guidelines should mention it. Medical textbooks should explain why. Yet most physicians rarely bring it up. Why?
Could millions of people really be doing something harmful every single day without realizing it? Or could we be asking the wrong question entirely? To answer that, we need to follow the journey of a single sip of water. Not from the dining table, but from inside your body. And that's where this story starts becoming much more fascinating than a simple rule about when you should or shouldn't drink water.
If the internet is right, our story should already be over. You finish your meal, you drink a glass of water, the stomach acid becomes diluted, digestion slows down. Problem solved. Simple. But science rarely works that way. So instead of imagining what happens, let's actually follow the journey of that glass of water, not from outside your body, but from the inside. The moment you swallow your first bite of food, digestion has already begun. Your teeth break food into smaller pieces. Your saliva starts breaking down carbohydrates using digestive enzymes. Within seconds, that food travels through your esophagus and enters your stomach. A few moments later, you take a sip of water. The water follows exactly the same path. Now imagine both arriving inside your stomach. This is the exact moment most internet videos describe as the problem. According to the myth, the water mixes with stomach acid, making it weaker. And once the acid becomes weaker, your food supposedly becomes harder to digest. At first, that explanation sounds perfectly reasonable. After all, if you pour water into a glass of orange juice, the flavor becomes weaker. If you add water to paint, the color becomes lighter. So wouldn't the same thing happen with stomach acid? Surprisingly,
No! And here's why. Your stomach isn't a simple container. It's an active organ, one that's constantly measuring, adjusting, and responding to whatever enters it, every single minute. Inside your stomach are millions of specialized cells. Some produce hydrochloric acid, others release digestive enzymes, others create a thick layer of protective mucus to prevent the stomach from digesting itself. This entire system is constantly communicating. When food enters, acid production increases. As digestion progresses, the stomach adjusts again. It's continuously regulating itself, not unlike a thermostat controlling the temperature inside your home. Think about your home's heating system. If you open the front door on a cold winter day, the room briefly cools down, but the thermostat detects the change and quickly restores the temperature. Your stomach works in a surprisingly similar way. If extra water temporarily changes the acidity, your stomach simply responds. It produces more acid whenever it's needed. In other words, your digestive system isn't passively waiting for things to happen. It's actively maintaining the environment required for digestion. In fact, this ability is one of the reasons humans can consume meals that vary enormously from day to day. One day you eat soup, the next day it's steak.
Another day, it's fruit. Sometimes you drink almost no water. Other times you drink several glasses. Yet remarkably, your stomach continues doing its job because it was designed to adapt, not to fail every time your meal changes slightly. Which raises an even more interesting question. If drinking water doesn't simply wash away your stomach acid, why do some people genuinely feel bloated or uncomfortable after drinking water with meals? Are they imagining it? Or is something else happening that the internet has been blaming on water all along? The answer turns out to have very little to do with the water itself, and much more to do with something most people never even think about. So, if water isn't destroying your stomach acid, why do some people genuinely feel bloated after drinking it with a meal? The answer is surprisingly simple. In many cases, the problem isn't the water, it's everything happening around the water. Think about a typical rushed lunch. Someone eats quickly, takes large bites, swallows before chewing properly, drinks a large amount of water in between bites, and finishes the meal in just a few minutes. What enters the stomach? Not just food, not just water, but also a significant amount of swallowed air. That air can create a feeling of fullness or bloating, and because the discomfort appears after drinking water, many people blame the water itself, when in reality, the air and the eating speed may be playing a much larger role. Now, consider another situation. Imagine your stomach is already very full. You finish a large meal, then immediately drink a large glass of water. In that moment, the stomach stretches even more. For some people, that extra stretching can create pressure and discomfort. Again, the water becomes the obvious suspect, but the real issue may simply be that the stomach was already near its comfortable limit. There's also an important group that often gets overlooked: people with acid reflux or GERD.
For them, large volumes of liquid can sometimes increase stomach pressure. That pressure may make it easier for stomach contents to move upward into the esophagus. When that happens, the person may experience heartburn or a burning sensation in the chest. Notice something important here. The problem still isn't that water destroyed digestion. The problem is a specific medical condition that changes how the digestive system behaves. And then there's another source of confusion: carbonated drinks. Many people say, "I drank with my meal and felt bloated," but what they actually drank was sparkling water or soda. Those beverages contain dissolved carbon dioxide gas. As the gas is released in the stomach, it can increase bloating and belching. That's very different from drinking plain water, yet the two experiences often get mixed together in casual conversations. Interestingly, for some people with sensitive stomachs, eating a small amount of food before drinking coffee can actually reduce discomfort. A banana is a good example. By putting food into the stomach first, the coffee arrives in a less empty environment. That may feel gentler for certain individuals, which means the banana isn't causing the problem. In some cases, it may even help reduce it. But here's the part that surprises many people. Water doesn't merely fail to harm digestion, it actually helps digestion in several ways. Water helps soften food.
It helps form saliva. It helps move food through the digestive tract. It helps the intestines absorb and transport nutrients. And it helps prevent constipation by keeping stool from becoming excessively hard. In other words, hydration is not the enemy of digestion. It's one of the requirements for digestion to work properly. So why has the myth survived for so long? Because the human brain is very good at connecting events that happen close together. You drink water, you feel bloated. You assume the water caused it. But the real cause may have been overeating, swallowing air, reflux, carbonation, or another underlying sensitivity. And once that explanation feels true, it becomes a story that's easy to repeat. Which brings us to an even more surprising question. If water often helps digestion rather than harms it, why do so many health influencers continue telling people to avoid it after meals? The answer has less to do with biology and much more to do with how information spreads online. At this point, we've followed the journey of water from your glass to your stomach and through your digestive system. We've discovered that drinking water after a meal doesn't simply wash away stomach acid. We've also learned that many of the uncomfortable symptoms people experience often have far more to do with overeating, acid reflux, eating too quickly, or sugary and carbonated drinks than with plain water itself. But one question still remains. If the evidence doesn't strongly support the myth, why has it survived for so many years? The answer has surprisingly little to do with digestion and almost everything to do with human psychology. Our brains are designed to simplify the world. Rules like never drink water after eating are easy to remember. They're short, they're clear, and they feel safe. Compare that with the real scientific answer. It depends on the individual, the amount consumed, their medical condition, and the overall context. One sentence is memorable, the other requires explanation. And that's why simple myths spread much faster than complicated truths.